Okay, seeing that it's after 7 o'clock and we do have a quorum, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. I don't think there's an on-off.
There's no on-off. It's just the way it's going to be.
Okay, we're just going to start off with the chairman of the select board. Mary Beth?
Thank you very much, John.
Hold on.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to finally be holding town meeting indoors on the first Thursday of May once again. First, I'd like to thank Fran Sorrentino for supplying us with water for the past 26 years. Since she retired, we're on our own.
That's right.
So this year, we're going to be reintroducing the clickers for certain town meeting votes, or maybe all town meeting votes. Sure. It's probably just that I have to speak closer to the mic. Thank you. So this year, we're going to be reintroducing the clickers for town meeting votes. And I would like to take a moment to thank Dick DeFazio's research and leadership in evaluating systems and selecting this particular system for use at our annual town meeting. Dick DeFazio was instrumental in finding a confidence-promoting, safe, and foolproof system for people to privately register their votes at town meeting. This allows us to enter into robust debate regarding items of importance to our citizens, and then lets each of us register our votes privately within a secure system. Mr. DeFazio had the integrity of each person's vote in mind when he created the manual our registrars now use to man the meeting ourselves on our own system without incurring additional cost. Dick's ingenuity and the personal man-hours spent to getting this particular process just right for our annual town meeting is his gift to our town, and we thank him most sincerely for his generosity. There may be robust debate over some of the articles the town will address this evening. And I am pleased that in the town of Lenox, we all hold one another in high regard and are careful to debate the item on the floor and not argue with the debater. We all know that our school district provides one of the most outstanding K-12 educations in our Commonwealth. By extension, Lenox is one of the highest performing school districts in our country. No one in this room disagrees with that fact. Tonight, we may debate the level of funding for our school district, but in the end, we must each respect our neighbor's vote and rest assured in the fact that the students served by the Lenox Public School District are very well prepared for post-secondary employment and education. Next, I wish to thank all of the people who helped me over the past year in my role as chairwoman of the Select Board. First, the gentlemen with whom I sit, Ed Lane, Dave Roach, Warren Archie, and Neil Maximilian. My special thanks go to Mary Ellen Deming, Chris Ketchen, our town councilors, Katie Klein and Joel Bard, the four of whom were always available as sounding boards and generously offered their advice and guidance throughout the year. I must also thank Carrie Sullivan, Charles Brown, Brenda Mara, Catherine Phillips, Lisa Wellspeak, Gwen Miller, Jess Cote, Darlene McCauley, Katie O'Neill, Billy Gopp, Matt Colmer, Chief Steve O'Brien, and Chief Chris O'Brien, Mark Goslin, and Amy Novitsky. Each one of you provided insight into the work you and your staffs do to provide all of us with first-rate municipal and educational services. I hope we met some of the challenges brought to the Select Board's attention over the past year. During another year of challenge, each town employee and every school department employee I came in contact with managed to pivot and cope with whatever situation stood before them. I applaud the creativity and hard work displayed by each and every one of you. I'd also like to thank our numerous volunteer boards and committees. And I thank you all by name, but I know you'd rather I get on with it. Lennox does so much of its important work through these volunteer boards and committees. There are countless hours of unpaid labor, deliberation, and thoughtful recording of meetings that make this town run as well as it does. However, we always need another good volunteer at the table. So please take a moment tomorrow, over the weekend, to flip through the town annual report and take a look at what these boards and committees accomplished over the past year. There are 18 boards and committees listed on the committee application page, at page 14. This is my thing, is volunteering. I counted 11 vacancies on 7 committees and 4 minor officers or representatives to be appointed by the select board that also need to be filled. One is the representative to the Berkshire Regional Transit Authority. Could you guys believe the article in the Berkshire Eagle over the weekend about the family who couldn't get from the Intermodal Transit Center in Pittsfield to Camp Winnetou, and it was this person's own wedding? Okay, we need a person who's passionate about county-wide transportation for this important position, and I know you're out there. The bottom line is your town needs you. If you're interested in serving the town, you will reap the rewards of knowing that you have served your neighbors very well. You will also meet a lot of terrific people throughout Berkshire County who love it here as much as you and I do. And finally, I'd like to thank my husband, Kevin. We're very lucky to share our lives together in this lovely town. He is my rock, and we count our kids as Lennox millionaires. Now I'd like to address Article 1. Or am I going to introduce you?
We're going to go to Chris.
Okay, I'm sorry. We're going to go to Chris Ketchen first, our town manager, to present the information about the town budget that you're all here for this evening. Thank you, Chris.
Mr. Moderator, Christopher Ketchen, 388 Housatonic Street.
Chris,
Town Manager.
hold it up. It's your mouth.
Yeah, it's going to be right up there.
Okay. I think my letter said there would be some miscues, so, but I'm grateful for your patience. So, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, Madam Chair, for your generous comments, and thank you all for attending this night's town meeting. The first town meeting that we've had on time and in person in over 3 years. So we're delighted to see you all here back in the Duffin on the first Thursday in May. And we look forward to going through the various articles tonight, primarily appropriations articles, where you, the public, the voters of the town, have the opportunity to perform your duty as legislators in approving appropriations and other bylaw measures that in other parts of the country, other places in Massachusetts and New England might be approved by a representative council or a county commission. But in Lennox here, it's really up to you. So thank you for coming, and good luck with your decisions tonight. And we're hoping that the information that we provided you in advance will be helpful. So on to the budget overview. So the budget before the town in various forms and appropriations, as well as non-appropriations items, are looking to be in the neighborhood of $30.9 million for the upcoming fiscal year beginning July 1. We believe that in order to accommodate the appropriations required to fund the budget, as well as our other obligations, will require a 4.1% increase to the town's tax levy over that levy which was assessed in the current fiscal year, 2022. The budget before you in the various articles provides funding for the existing services of the town, as well as a number of strategic initiatives and the reintroduction of several services and programs that predate the pandemic. In order to come up with a reliable fiscal estimate for the tax impact of the various appropriations articles before you tonight, We rely on conservative state aid and local revenue assumptions so as to not to get too far out over our skis when it comes to managing the fiscal affairs of the town. And we also are disciplined enough to use limited reserves to fund our operating expenses, roughly $300,000 going towards operating, which is equivalent to less than 1% of the budget. So we can go to the next two slides. So first, where does the money come from? So as you can see, the dark maroon portion of the pie, 55% of the revenue used to fund the town comes from the taxation of real and personal property. 55%, equating to about $17.1 million. Other revenue sources include local revenue, which constitutes a broad category, accounting for about 13.4% or $4.2 million. And that's made up of various items such as motor vehicle excise, hotel and motel tax, departmental specific lines for fees and other forms of payment for service. State aid is a substantial portion of the budget, about $11.2 million. I'm sorry, 11.2%, $3.5 million. Free cash, we're looking at deploying $2.2 million in our free cash account, almost overwhelmingly to fund stabilization fund, trust fund obligations, as well as our robust capital improvement program. And enterprise funds constitute $3.5 million, or 11%, and those are direct offsets to the appropriations we'll be seeking under Articles 4 and 5 for our business-like activities in the water and sewer department. So next slide. Where does the money go? In Lenox, not unlike most other towns, the bulk of the appropriations go to fund our outstanding public school system. $14.9 million, 48%, followed distant second by our enterprise fund activities, $3.5 million. And then rounding out some of the larger categories, general government, public safety, 11 and 8.5%, respectively. So what does this all mean in terms of taxation? So if we took the property valuation, the total property valuation for FY22, that is $1.44 billion, that's billion with a B, dollars of total assessed property valuation for the town of Lenox in the current fiscal year. We're estimating that we'll need to levy against that value $17.1 million to fund all of the appropriation requests that will be before you tonight, including the operating budget of the town under Article 2 and the operating budget for the school system under Article 3, as requested. So, it's always a difficult exercise to project out what a tax impact would look like 6 months from now when the tax rate is actually set. So I would take the next series of numbers as an order of magnitude estimate for what one might expect to experience if you were to fund all of the appropriations requests that are tax dependent that are on the warrant here before you tonight. We currently have a tax rate on residential property of $10.84 per thousand. At a aforementioned 4.1% increase, the tax rate would rise to $11.28 per thousand. And the commercial, industrial, and personal property tax rate, that's quote-unquote CIP, would rise from 13.46 to 14.01. So what does that mean for the average single-family homeowner in the town of Lenox? Well, we assess the average single-family home in Lenox at $467,000. It's roughly a $5,200, $5,300 tax bill, and that would be an increase of about $207. So the next slide shows what the projections look like, and this is where the work of you as legislators becomes serious, because we have not only our current year demands, but we are looking at substantial capital improvements that will have to be funded mostly through borrowing in the coming years, such as a wastewater treatment plant, a public safety facility, improvements to this building, on the horizon, as well as many, many other capital improvements throughout the town, at the library, at the town hall, the community center, the public works garage, Morris. There's a lot coming down the pike that we need to be prepared for. So while the operating budget wants to push the total tax levy up 4.1% this year, we all need to be mindful of the ability to take as a task bringing down the out-year projections that are currently exceeding 7% successively in FYs 24 and 25. So that'll be the task we take over the next 12 to 24 months to try and bring those numbers down to something approaching more reasonable than they currently are. So an important part of the bonding articles that I was mentioning earlier will be the ability for the town to maintain its exemplary credit rating. We're one of two communities west of the Connecticut River with the nation's highest bond rating status, that of AAA with Standard & Poor's. And a large amount of what contributes toward that is our very strong reserve position. We currently have about $4.2 million in so-called free cash, which is somewhat of an unfortunate name because it's neither free nor cash. But I don't make the rules, I just live by them. Which is a very, it's not a historically high number, but it's a very strong position to be in when approaching the bond market for borrowing. The General Stabilization Fund is at almost $750,000 in addition to our free cash balance. And then we've set aside funds in various stabilization and trusts over the years to try and anticipate and get ahead of the various liabilities that we'll be facing in terms of purchase of capital equipment, amortizing our unfunded liability for other post-employment benefits for retirees in both the school and municipal departments. That trust has grown to $7.5 million over the last 6 years. The water enterprise and wastewater enterprise funds both maintain retained earnings that are sufficient to fund the capital programs in addition to the operations that are funded by user charges in our wastewater and water departments. And we have what I've called the soft reserve, which is excess levy capacity. When I think a few years ago when we started focusing on this number, it was a five-digit number around $80,000, and over the years through the fiscal management of the selectmen, the finance committee, the school committee, we've grown our excess levy capacity, which is the amount of money that the town could tax without a Proposition 2.5 override to fund the budget. That number is now almost $3.9 million. That's money that the town could tax without asking for your permission, but we feel that it's better served in your bank account rather than ours. So, moving on then, for some of the articles, particularly focusing on the operating budget tonight, some of the highlights. Article 2 is the article that deals with all the municipal departments. We're looking at providing for existing municipal services that we're able to deliver today, as well as the restoration of some pre-pandemic items and a couple of strategic initiatives, particularly in our public safety and public works departments. Article 3, this is the school committee's called the general fund or tax impact portion of their operating budget. And as you have most assuredly read in the press or in other outlets, there is a difference between the amount or the desire to increase that budget. The selectmen and the finance committee are desires to increase the school's budget by $426,000. The school committee would like to see that budget passed at a little under $700,000. So that's the universe of difference that we're talking about here tonight. Unable to reconcile that internally. So it's before you to decide, and as it should be. Articles 4 and 5 are enterprise fund operating and capital and debt service budgets for the water and sewer enterprise. Those are entirely self-supporting through rates and other related sources. debt service for bond capital projects. Most recently, the work at the library and at the town hall. You'll see increases in the debt service line item to cover repayment of those projects. And then finally, we pride ourselves on a very aggressive capital plan. There aren't many communities that spend well over $1 million in cash every year to maintain their fixed assets, and it's even rarer when a town of 5,000 people have the discipline to make that reinvestment as opposed to plowing it into further operating costs. So that's the result of the fiscal management of the Selectmen, School Committee, and the stewardship of the Finance Committee. So finally, as I mentioned before, as you're considering the appropriations articles in front of you, be mindful that beyond the current fiscal year, FY23, and the years that follow, we're looking at very large capital projects on the horizon. You can anticipate a need to substantially reinvest in many of our buildings. You can expect very soon an appropriation request for probably the largest non-school capital project in the town's history. That's the upgrade of the wastewater treatment plant on Crystal Street. Additionally, we'll be looking to modernize our public safety operations through the construction of a public safety facility, as well as a scope to be determined on some substantial work that will be needed in this building. So, with that being said, we're looking to maintain our services while grappling with the inflationary pressures that we're all facing both as individuals. It is similarly true for those of us managing institutions. And we're looking to manage the tax burden of all of that while meeting the service needs and the legal obligations of the town. So, again, appreciate you being here. Thank you for your patience as we reintroduce ourselves to this process. And good luck to all of us as we make these important decisions. Thank you.
Okay, before we get started with the articles, I just want to go over some of the ground rules. If you do want to speak on an article, please just walk down to the stairs to either side and just stand on the stairs in line, and I will acknowledge you. When you do get acknowledged, please just introduce yourself, your address, to me so that once I acknowledge you, then you can speak. We are going to put the 2-minute limit on as well, so you'll have 2 minutes to speak, and please try not to repeat things. If someone else has said it, let's try to keep everything moving tonight. Article 1.
All right, Article 1. I move that the town vote to waive the reading of the warrant and return of service thereof, and to authorize the moderator pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 39, Section 15, to declare a 2/3 vote on voice votes if he deems it so.
Second.
All those in favor?
That's not your job, that's my job.
It's
Boy,
been
oh
2
boy.
years, John.
Article 2.
Good to see you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate funds for the operating expenses of the town for the fiscal year 2023 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second?
Second.
So I'm going to read these. You'll have to bear with me.
Get closer to the mic, Dave, please. Closer to the mic.
Oh. She's been helping me all year. Okay, so I'm going to read all of these, so just bear with me. It's in kind of small print, but we'll get through it. Admin and finance, $345,247.
Hold 1 second, Dave. Just so you know, as he's reading through those, if there is one that you would like to discuss, just yell out hold, and then we'll continue on, and we'll go back to those in order as we get to them.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Town clerk, $83,957. Town treasurer collector, $169,632. Compensation reserve, $90,000. Operations support, $99,118. Elections and registration, $16,675. Economic development and advertising, $122,500. Town debt and interest, $237,000. Audit and reserve, $841,252. Insurance and bonds, OPEB, $799,786. Land Use Department, $31,388.
Hold on. It's 531,000.
Say that. Oh, I'm sorry, $531,388. Town buildings, $98,000. General government subtotal, $3,434,685. Police Department, $1,374,042. Fire Department, $653,274. Emergency Management, $35,100. Ambulance Squad, $583,830. Public Safety, $2,646,246. Vocational Education, $197,101. Education subtotal, $197,101. Highway Department, $731,546. Snow and Ice, $257,005. Cemetery, $32,397. Public Works subtotal, $1,020,948. Board of Health, $213,893. Veteran Services, $30,372. Human Services.
I did.
Human Services subtotal, $244,265. Community Center, $449,092. Cultural Council grants, $5,000. Cultural District, $7,500. Academy Buildings, $7,774. Historical Commission, $25,950. Celebrations, $2,200. Cultural and Recreation subtotal, $497,516. Lenox Library, $443,400. Lenox Library subtotal, $43,400. Totals, 58 million, I'm sorry, 8 million, well, you know these print.
I'm sorry, I was supposed to get.
Thank you for bearing with me. 8,484,161.
Okay. Usually we'd have, we'll just go with the holds on this one. So the first hold, I only got 2 holds. That was one on the total and one on the Veteran Services. Did I miss any? Okay, then we'll wait for the question on.
Richard Riedel, 423 New Lenox Road.
Closer to the mic, please.
Richard Riedel, 423.
Can we get this mic on?
It doesn't look like it's working.
Chris has got it.
Richard Riedel, 423 New Lenox Road. Regarding the veteran services, I'm just wanting to provide a significant increase from last year.
Thank you. Town Manager Ketchen will certainly answer that question.
So unlike any other line item, I think in the budget, This is a line item that is 75% reimbursed by the state a year after the fact. So frankly, what we're experiencing is fewer claims for, I think it's Chapter 115 benefits from the residents of our town who qualify for that veterans benefit category. So the choice here is, rather than put a level fund or some larger amount onto the tax rate, it's our attempt to match what we think the actual claims will be, which are lower than the current year.
Maybe you want to stay.
Okay, and then there was a hold on the total.
Good evening, my name is Hank Manning, 32 Public Street. I think we have a terrific town. I have no objection and I stand in support of general government subtotal, which increased 19%, public safety total, which increased 8.5%, public works subtotal, which increased over 6%, cultural and recreation, which increased 7.12%, and the library, which increased 5.32%. Overall, this budget is $870,000 greater than last year, an 11.43% increase. I commend you all. I think we're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Any more comments or discussion? I heard a yes, did I not?
Robert Hackman, 34 St. Anne's Avenue. Just curious for an explanation on the town debt and interest going from $13,000 to $237,000.
That is an excellent question. So at the last annual town meeting, this body, in its 2021 iteration, approved a number of bonded projects. So the debt service is now coming due for those. We did that knowing full well that we had the cash on hand to fund the projects, but we were able to take advantage of historically low interest rates. The total interest cost of the bonds that we issued last fall was 1.6%. So though we have the cash on hand to pay for a lot of these projects, it seemed prudent at the time to preserve the cash and spend it on other types of things, including $300,000 to lower the tax rate. So in this budget, in the preamble to the article, you will note that there's a deployment of free cash. It is almost entirely designed to knock out the tax impact of the debt service, since we already have the cash on hand. So while it is a remarkable increase, the increase is completely neutralized from hitting the actual tax bills through the cash transfer.
Seeing no other discussion, all in favor of the article, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Article 3.
I move the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $14,895,584 for the operating expenses of the school department for the fiscal year 2023.
Second.
Explanation.
Okay, I'd like to thank Select Board Chair Mary Beth Mitz and the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Ketchett, Mr. Moderator, Mr. McNinch, for allowing me to make this presentation. I speak on behalf of the school committee, Megan, Veronica, Christine, Bob, Dave, and Lauren, who are largely sitting over there. I want to recognize some employees who've retired or are retiring this year. Francie Sorrentino, up there. Lori Goodfellow and Anna Van Lingen in food service, fifth grade teacher Helen. Fifth grade teacher Helen Rock and school adjustment counselor Donna Weber at Morris. I'd also like to thank our teachers, support staff, and administration, especially our new superintendent, Dr. Mark Goslin, Jr., and Assistant Superintendent Melissa Falkowski for the outstanding education provided daily to all our students. You've seen, perhaps in the paper or in the handout, that this week Lennox Memorial Middle and High School was ranked number 1 high school in Berkshire County and number 29 out of 378 in Massachusetts. Morris was ranked 3rd in Berkshire County and 176 out of 1,182. These are the reasons why we're proud of our schools, and this is what your support has helped us accomplish. The school department portion of the budget is always significant. We're up 4.91% from last year's budget. A year ago, we were advised to keep our budget to 3% because of continued uncertainty with the pandemic situation. In order to do that, while maintaining all of our programs, some expenses were moved to federal grant funding. In preparing this year's budget, we brought back about $100,000 in items that had been covered by the federal grant, student activities, portions of 2 salaries, professional development and tutoring, among some others, which they really belonged in the operating budget. Now they're back in the operating budget, but it resulted in a significant increase in our budget. We think this is a good budget, and it was unanimously approved by the school committee in mid-March. We respect the Finance Committee's opinion and will take their advice into account as we prepare next year's budget. We've already begun that process. The committee and I thank you for past support and hope we can count on it again this year. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to ask for Dave Roach, if you want to make a comment.
First of all, I want to say,
You're close to the mic.
here we go again. First of all, I want to say thank you to the school committee. Thank you, Chairman Vaughn, and congratulations on all the accolades that you certainly deserve to receive and the fine job you've done with the youth of this town. On behalf of the Select Board, all of us, we appreciate everything that you've done. Now I'm going to make a few comments about the rest of the town. But before I get started, this is the first time we have had an opportunity to get together in a couple of years, and I want to recognize a few things that have happened during that period of time. About a year and a half ago, or a little over a year ago actually, there was a fire call. There was a fire call on West Street, and we had 2 officers that immediately responded. Those officers, Joseph Kennedy and Mike Smith, noticed that there was an occupant in a second floor window and the building was burning. They found a ladder on the property, put the ladder up, one of them held the ladder, one of them went up and extricated the occupant. They brought them down, the fire department had arrived, they started battling the fire, the ambulance service arrived, treated the victim, brought her to the hospital, and she lived. I think those officers and that police department certainly deserve a round of applause for their effort. So I think the excellence in our town also needs to be pointed out. What happens in the middle of the night if you call 911? Well, depending on your emergency, either a policeman, a fireman, or an ambulance paramedic is going to arrive. And they will take care of you. They will treat you, I'll turn the page. You can expect competent, experienced, compassionate, and professionalism. These are the people who meet your needs and the needs of your family. We have excellent emergency services. I should have organized this a little better. We have dedicated and committed employees in all of our departments. police, fire, ambulance, DPW, community center, schools, town hall, and the list goes on. And we have excellent department heads heading those departments. Over the years, we have sought to bring parity between all of the departments within the town. By parity, I mean we treat everybody the same. Not valuing the services of one more group of employees over another. We value all contributors equally. When it comes to pay raises, we have been consistent in how we treat employees. We figure out what we can afford on the tax rate and what the taxpayers can afford to pay. And then we negotiate, keeping everyone on an even scale, and it has worked well. Thanks to our town manager, our town is, as he has previously explained, in excellent fiscal shape. We are allowing us to plan for the future. Working with our finance committee, we are looking forward to the future expenditures. We have major expenditures facing us. I checked with Fire Chief O'Brien the other day. Our central fire station was built in 1910. Horses drew the fire apparatus at that time. We're moving into the 21st century. That building does not accommodate us any longer. Our fire apparatus now needs to be modified in order to even fit in the building. So we have a ladder truck that we were going to replace a few years ago, but the cost was prohibitive because we had to spend approximately another $500,000 to retrofit it so it would fit into the building. So we have to take this seriously and we have to move forward. Our town hall was built in 1909. It was built with a basement. That basement was never meant to house a police force. Our police force puts up with quarters that I think are deplorable and need to be replaced. And we're going to do that. And we're going to have a town meeting in probably 6 months to lay out exactly what we propose. That cost will be to the town of probably close to $45 million. We have been planning for this, as Chris, town manager, has pointed out. We have our ducks in a row. We've planned this, and we want to move forward with it. There will be other expenses facing us as well. Chairman Vaughn has been nice enough to come to the last few selectmen's meetings and outline the possibility that we're going to have to spend significant amounts of dollars to bring our buildings and infrastructure up to not necessarily code, but to meet the needs of the future. What we would like to do, we support Chairman Vaughn and all the school committee in those ventures. And we would like to have joint meetings with the school committee and the finance committee so as we move forward. We value the entire town and every employee in it, and we want every employee to be treated fairly and equally. A no vote tonight on this article will allow us to assure that the town of Lenox employees, that the town voters value their services equally, and allow us to move forward together with the school committee. It's time that we recognize that while we are elected officials with different interests, we work for the same taxpayers. It's time to work together to benefit the entire town. Thank you.
John? Wait a second, yeah. Go ahead. No, you're all right. All right, if anyone would like to make comments on this, please come down to the stand in front. Yeah.
Christine Cass, 8 Maple Street. I'm speaking today as chair of the Town Finance Committee, and with your permission, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to speak for about 3 minutes. I'd like to share more information about the Finance Committee's perspective on the school budget. As the town warrant reports, the Finance Committee voted this year against supporting the school committee's budget by a vote of 5-1. I should say I am the one member who voted to approve the budget, but the committee has asked me to speak to its concerns, many of which I share as well. I'd like to make 3 points in particular. First, the Finance Committee supports the goal of having outstanding schools. Strong schools are the foundation of strong communities. Members did not vote against the school budget because they don't value our schools or because they want to save money by making cuts. We all take enormous pride in the quality of our schools and the role they play in our community. We give so much attention to the school budget process because we believe that undisciplined budget puts our schools and our town at risk. Simply put, it is not possible to maintain outstanding schools and continually improve them if we are not using our resources as effectively as possible. Second, we do not think that the school budgeting process has been an effective one. For the past 3 years, members of the Finance Committee have shared our concerns with the school committee and administration about their budgeting process. The schools should identify their top priorities and make trade-offs to best meet the changing needs of today's students and families in a fiscally sustainable way. Based on our conversations, we do not believe this work has been done in recent years. Instead, the budget each year has just reflected what it costs to do the same thing as last year with minor adjustments. This is not the way to provide our students with the best possible education. This year's budget is a case in point. On the surface, the obvious problem is that the budget is growing too fast, but our real concern is that it's not clear why this increase is necessary. We are not aware of places where the schools found ways to do things more efficiently or new priorities that are leading to higher spending. To the contrary, the main cause of higher spending increase this year seems to be choices made last year to kick the can down the road. That's not responsible budgeting. Third, our advice to the town is to expect more from the school budget. Excellent schools deserve an excellent budget. We should all hold the school budget to the same high standard that we would hold any budget. We should want to know what has been done to find efficiency and savings in the existing program, and we should want to know how significant increases in spending connect to improvements for our students. The Finance Committee is encouraged by recent conversations with the school committee that indicate they will be pursuing a more rigorous budgeting process for the coming year. We look forward to working with them on that process and hope that we will be able to support next year's school budget enthusiastically. And the last thing I'll say is that the Finance Committee is looking for more members, so if you care passionately about the future of the school budget and how the town is making budgeting decisions, please consider joining us on the Finance Committee. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go here and then I'll go to
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Kristen Moriarty, 279 Housatonic Street. I speak to you tonight as a parent of Morris children and also as the PTO president, though what I'll share with you tonight are the opinions of myself and don't represent the PTO as a collective. In the spring of 2019, my husband and I moved to the area from outside of Seattle. He had grown up here and his parents still live in the house he grew up in from 4th grade on. We lived with them for several months while house hunting, and because they live in Lenox, our oldest daughter, who was in the middle of her kindergarten year when we moved, started school at Morris. It was an excellent experience and a difficult transition. Shortly thereafter, we learned that school choice for her grade was full, which meant we could only stay in Morris if we bought a house in Lenox. We immediately limited our search to Lenox, even though we knew our money wouldn't go as far as it would in neighboring towns. I tell you this story to illustrate what a draw the school was for us as newcomers. The Lenox Public Schools have the academic excellence, first-class teachers and staff, and small class sizes that we wanted for our daughter's education. We knew all this to be true about LPS because my husband was an LPS student, because people he went to school with either never left or returned to the area as he had, so they could raise their families in this community and send their kids to these schools. I won't belabor our school's reputations already mentioned this evening. Our school rankings help boost our home values and draw people to our area. And most importantly, our schools help launch the lives of the students who attend them. And yes, this does come at a cost. I don't believe any of our elected school committee members or our school administration are spending frivolously. I do believe they all have our students and our community's best interest in mind as they build, scrutinize, and vote on the annual budget. I'm not saying the budget is perfect. What I am saying to the Finance Committee and the Select Board is that to target personnel as the problem in the budget, because it is the largest line item, might be out of touch. I don't know how many of you are educational professionals and are involved in the school on a day-to-day business, but the people making these budgets do. What I can imagine is that if everyone in this room thinks back to their own schooling, what might stick out in your memory are the exceptional teachers who guided you along your own educational journey. Our personnel are what make our schools excellent. In Dr. Goslin's email to the parents this week, in honor of Teacher Appreciation Week, He says, "Our teachers are the heart and soul of our district," and that's a quote. So if this budget does not pass tonight and must go back to the drawing board, I implore you not to take the easy way out and cut personnel and shortchange our students by creating larger class sizes, less individualized attention, and fewer resources for the students who really need them. The way to show our teachers appreciation this week and to send the message to our children that they matter is to pass this school budget. Please vote yes.
Neil.
Thanks, Mr. Moderator. Neil Maximilian, 117 Cliffwood Street. Two things, and I'll be brief. So we have this, whoops. Everyone took one of these. By necessity, under the article, you see approved by school committee.
Closer to the mic.
Approved by school committee, not approved by select board, not approved by finance committee. And I think those words are misleading. Tonight's not the finance committee against the school committee. It's not the select board versus the school committee. It's not the finance committee versus the town. We have to remember that we all live in Lenox, and we're all in this room trying to accomplish the same thing, which is to develop a budget and develop articles, approve articles, rather, that support the services of our town. So I hope further comments aren't construed as school versus select board and whatnot. The select board did suggest a $400,000, almost $400,000 increase to the school budget, which was a 3% increase. So it's not that we're anti-school in any way, shape, or form. And then finally, I want to talk a little bit about the budget process, and I know Chris took you through a lot of it, but there's been a lot of talk about the free cash. Where does it come from? And what about this great year that we had? All the meals and hotel tax that we collected, record year. Chris might have mentioned that in a select board meeting or two. When Chris sits down and thinks about our budget, he doesn't start there. He starts with, what's an appropriate levy for the town? 2.5% is more or less a standard in the state to think about. How do I build a budget with a levy that's approximately 2.5%? Then what other funds what new tax will I come up with from people moving into town, new businesses, new occupants? Then he thinks about the money we get from the state, which we don't know, but he can project. Things like that. At the end of the day, we're a fortunate town. We have a very attractive town to visit, to eat in, to stay in. And yes, this last year and the last 2 years have been fantastic in terms of the windfall of meals tax, hotel tax, etc. I'll wrap up. I just want to remind people that, say you run a business, you have a record year. Do you rip up your business and buy all new equipment and hire 10 more employees because of that record year? 2021, the beginning of the pandemic, we had a significant shortfall in meal tax, hotel tax, and we made up for it with the free cash that Chris talked about. So what I'm suggesting is prudent budgeting doesn't always look at your best year and then go forward from there. Thank you.
Hank Maiman, 32 Hubbard Street. Is this better?
Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to point out that as my reading of the school department budget, there was only a 3.06% increase in their expenses, which amounted to $495,000. The net budget, however, was up about $200,000 more because the school department traditionally applies revenues that it receives against its expenses. And in the past, but not last year, they would get revenues from sales of tickets to sporting events, rental of the Duffin Theater, and other revenues and school choice. But because of the pandemic, many of those sources of revenue were not available. So that's why they're asking for $200,000 additional dollars on top of 3%. And I don't think that's unreasonable. under the circumstances of the pandemic. We have a terrific school system. The teachers and support staff work incredibly hard. The kids learn a lot, and they're great kids, and it's a great school, and I think we need to support it. Thank you.
My name is Charles Geyer. I live on 32 Braceland Court. You have heard a lot from people that care a lot about this school, and I am coming here to tell you guys about a student's point of view, which is me. I am a senior here at Lennox. Before I came here, I have struggled with academics a lot. And then I came here and I met all this great staff, all this great community of teachers and supporters I have here. I look around this Duffin area and I see 10 to 20 people that have counted on me, that have really worked hard to help me to get here and to help me to be where I am. Before this, I really didn't have a good future. But now I'm taking AP classes. I'm hit honor rolls, high honor rolls every quarter this year. And I'm just saying, if you guys cut this budget, you'll be not only screwing over the teachers, but kids like us. I don't get what's so funny. You know, people like us, we need small classrooms. We need to have the one-on-one time. We need these teachers to really focus on academics and not on the Wi-Fi cutting out, not on the website changing without telling anybody. We don't need people to complain about Lennox logos instead of you guys not putting the links to the places we need to submit our assignments and the teachers need to upload our grades. This is ridiculous. You got teachers coming here, not even in their district. They can't even vote to come support and to come help change what you guys are trying to do. Thank you.
Arnold Miller, 30 Clifton Court, Lennox. Because of the size of the school budget and the controversy that seems to be going around here a little bit, is it unreasonable to request anything like a slide that says salaries, this, that, and that, and show us the ingredients of what this budget is meant to accommodate? In other words, if it went down by 5% in salary, did it go up by 7% a year? It's just so much money, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, we don't have that slide. We go through a process where we have several meetings in January and February and March where all that stuff is presented. I don't have that available right at the moment.
I appreciate that, but still, don't you think it is something that we are, we really should see?
Yeah.
Is it, gas is gas, and there's a quantifiable amounts and a lot of these amendments and stuff, but the school budget is so much and is so important that I would think that maybe off the top of your head you can say that there's been this amount of the increase applied to this particular area without seeing a slide. I'm for the budget, I'm not against it, but I just would like to know a little bit more about what it's comprised of, that's all.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Generally speaking, any school department's budget is going to be somewhere between 80 and 85% staff. I don't know, I can't tell you right off the top of my head what the increase in the dollars for staffing is this year. But generally speaking, about 15% of the budget covers maintenance of the buildings, textbooks, anything else, and staff, because we're a people-intensive business, and so we tend to be, we're probably 83% of our budget is salaries. What the delta is from last year to this year, I can't tell you that.
Thank you.
Ellen Roach, 375 Housatonic Street. And in regards somewhat to, I would have liked to seen the items listed out. I would like to know how much the school received in state and federal pandemic funds and what you spent it on, and if you have any of those monies left.
Okay, I'm going to have to ask Melissa Falkowski, our school business, assistant superintendent for school business, to address that. I don't have that off the top of my head.
No,
Come to a mic.
Can you come up to a mic for me? You can go to either one, down there or up here, whichever you'd like.
We did receive.
You just have to introduce yourself, I'm sorry.
Melissa Falkowski, I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Lenox Public Schools. We did receive ESSER funding, pandemic funding from federal sources. We received 3 grants. One was for $114,000. One was for $392, and one was for $892. The first grant, the $114,000, was expended on getting us able to open the schools during the pandemic. The second one was, the second one was also spent. There's about $100,000 left in that, and that was for the same purpose. The third one is mostly intact. We are using it currently for additional personnel, subs, and things like that.
Thank you.
Hello, Veronica Fenton, 38 Taconic Avenue. I'm also the vice chair of the school committee, and I'm not in any way trying to usurp my wonderful chair's presentation tonight, but when I did hear the gentleman ask for a detailed portion of the budget, I just want to add, at every one of our public meetings, the agenda is posted ahead of time, and we do give the slides and the detail. So I think that in the way that this meeting has changed over the 28 years that I've lived here and had 3 children graduate from the schools, we've changed it for more efficiency, to be honest with you, because we have an elected member of 7 in your school committee, a finance director, a professional superintendent, and we do all of that work is done within the school system. So typically, people haven't really wanted to get into the mud and the details. However, every public meeting of our school committee, those issues are addressed during our budget season. And then we designate, I'm telling you this for people who are new, who want to be able to come to that. When we vote on our budget, we have a final, this is the summary of what we've gone through, and that is a public meeting, and it's really a public hearing. So for those of you that want to look at it and say, okay, I'm taking a peek at this, and it's published, so it's not a secret. You can also sign up for the notices. And now we've even offered, at least for a while, Zoom, so you can tune in. So we could change town meeting next year to do all of that with you, if that's what you want. I hope, though, that with 7 of us elected, we have elections on Monday. There's uncontested school committee elections, which tells me that you actually like what we're doing and that you trust us to do our job. And with all due respect to the Finance Committee, whose job is to review it, they are not elected, they are volunteers, and I very much appreciate that, but we are elected to present to you this budget. And you are here in direct democracy, and I love that there are young people here and graduates of Lenox, including our own daughter, to vote, and it's really an awesome opportunity. So if we were going to get into the nitty-gritty, we typically wouldn't do that here. The gross budget, you trust us with the money. And then I want to add what's in Mr. Vaughn's presentation. He kept it short for you, that there's a section of we don't have the ability to save money year over year in what's called free cash. We don't have the money, the ability to have a $4.7 million savings account, which is important. I'm not in any way saying we shouldn't do that. Chris Ketchen has done a wonderful job to make sure that we have money for the past, present, and the future. When we finish our budget and we've spent what we're going to spend, or we've changed our mind, or we've done something, we hand that money back. So that's the chart at the bottom that Mr. Vaughn has given to you. So I want to remind you that sometimes we have to really plan for what we've got to do. And if we don't need it, it comes back. And that means planning sometimes for kids that need something extra, a student who's having a crisis, if we need to send someone to a special program. That's what the professionals that we hire on your behalf are doing. So just to remind you, there's no hidden things. And I get concerned when I hear a presentation that the Finance Committee is suggesting that we're not doing a thorough, careful planning job. That upset me to hear that, because I spend a lot of Monday nights and a lot of subcommittee meetings. There's a Finance Committee, there's a liaison from the Select Board to the Finance Committee, meaning a Finance Committee of the school committee.
Veronica, wrap it up, please.
So I just wanted to let some people know, and if you want to come to any meetings or reach out to us, we will do that, or we can do the big presentation at this. That's been a decision not to do it that way anymore. So thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Heidi Fair, and I'm at 17 Hubbard in Lenox. And my main concern, without knowing the numbers, just want to stress the fact that physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech and language pathology services are extremely important for all of our students who need them. Thank you.
Hi, Jerry from 32 Schermerhorn Park in Lenox. Quick question. Bob, Hank told us that essentially the increase in the school budget this year is pandemic driven. Is that accurate from your point of view?
If you go back to last year's budget, we had a higher budget by, I think, about 170,000. We were asked to bring it down to 3%. In doing it, to keep the services level for the students, we put some of that into the federal grant. We also had fewer school choice students. So our revenue coming into this year, we're bringing back that money from the federal grant, which is part of the increase, and we have a smaller amount of school choice revenue to apply, actually quite a bit smaller, and that's largely the increase. Is it pandemic related? In a sense, yes, because when we were told to hold it to 3% last year, it was out of an abundance of caution. We were still in the pandemic. We didn't know what the future was for the town or the schools, so they asked us to hold it at 3%. But in order to maintain level programs, we pushed some into grant funding. We knew, and the Finance Committee, Mrs. Cass had mentioned it tonight, the Finance Committee, suggested to us last year that wasn't necessarily going to be good budgeting practice, but we felt we had to do it in order to maintain the programs. And so we did it. If we hadn't done it and we had made cuts last year, we probably would have been criticized for that, but we did what we did, and here we are.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, Francie Sorrentino, 111 Sherwood Drive. First of all, this thing is unbelievable. Whoever did this deserves a lot of credit. Long overdue. I lived the pandemic in Lenox Public High School. It's not easy. I'm so glad I'm out. Hank Maiman, I miss you. For the kids, to get them back on track. For our teachers to get back unfrazzled. Everything that it involved, transportation, food service, packing up boxes and shoving them into cars, and just a lot of things that had to be done. It all costs money. It all costs time. It all costs fret. This is not the year. This is a rebound year. This is the year that we begin to rebuild and to cut out. There is a lot of fluff, and we do have to tweak. But this isn't the year to do it. I support the Lenox school budget.
Robert Hackman, 34 St. Anne's Avenue. I'd like to express my feeling, which I think might be reflected by others, of some distress to discover that there is discord between the Finance Committee and the School Committee. And I think I heard on the Finance Committee's end that they felt that the School Committee was doing a not careful long-term planning and they were kicking things down the road. And I can't, I'm not in a position to make a judgment on that. My discomfort is that the Finance Committee doesn't seem to be working closely enough with the School Committee to come to some sort of accord. I think it's, I think at a big meeting like this, where everything's on a warrant, and while we could override and we can turn things down, it is better for the health of the community if the committees can come to some reasonable agreement instead of kicking it into the town meeting.
Brendan Matthews, 15 Beecher Lane. I'd like to call the question.
Thank you. Okay, so this is not debatable. We're going to vote on whether, we're going to vote to call the question. So all those in favor of calling the question, please signify by saying aye. Aye. I got it, yeah. Opposed? All right, it carries. All right, so this is the question. Let's break out our clickers for this one, all right? Yeah, let's go on a review. So for the clickers, when it's time, you're going to get, oh, there it is. The number one, press number one if you vote yay, or two if you vote nay. That's it. Once you push it in, it'll indicate in the little box up above, if you can see it, the number that you have chosen. Okay, so.
Are these already on?
Yep. They are already on and ready to go. But that's a very good question, though, Alan. Because they do look tired.
Green light.
All right. All right, all those in favor, press 1. All those opposed, press 2.
Thank you.
It carries. All right, Article 4.
It's up in the corner. I don't know how many people are here tonight.
Yeah, we got 17%.
Okay, first I just want to thank everybody for that was a tough question. Everybody was very cordial, adult-like, and so thank you for that. It was a good discussion, good town meeting. So, Mr. Moderator, Article 4, to see if the town will vote to make the following appropriations or any sum to fund the fiscal 2023 budget for the sewer department. Sewer operations, $939,800. Debt service, $778,362. Capital expenditures, $220,000, for a total of $1,938,162. And further, to provide for said appropriations from the following sources of revenue and available funds, or take any other action in relation hereto: user charges, $1,718,162. Retained earnings, $220,000, for a total of $1,938,162.
Is there a second?
Second.
Explanation?
This is just for the normal operation of the wastewater treatment plant and the entire sewer department. And as Mr. Ketchum pointed out earlier, it is an enterprise fund, so it's solely funded by the users.
Okay, all in favor of Article 4, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Article 5.
Mr. Moderator, to see if the town will vote to make the following appropriations or any other sum to fund the fiscal year 2023 budget for the water department. Water operations, $624,475. Debt service, $862,902. capital expenditures, $45,000. And further, to provide for said appropriations from the following source of revenue and available funds, or take any other action in relation thereto. User charges, $1,487,377. Retained earnings, $45,000, for a total of $1,532,377.
Second?
Second.
Explanation.
Similar to the sewer operation, this is, the water department is run solely by the users of the water.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to accept funds being provided by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts under the provisions of Chapter 90 of the General Laws to pay for such costs as allowed by appropriate legislation in connection with the maintenance, repair, and construction of townways and bridges.
Is there a second?
Second.
Explanation.
Every year, the state allocates about $280,000 to Lennox for road improvement. This article authorizes the town to accept those funds and improve our roads, which we think the DPW does on an outstanding job maintaining our infrastructure, and this will assist in maintaining that effort.
All those in favor of Article 6, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Article 7, Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $1,314,200 for the following capital expenditures. 1. Highway Department expenditures, $325,000. 2. Cemetery Department expenditures, $50,000. 3. School Department expenditures, $372,200. 4. Fire Department expenditures, $285,000. 5. Police Department expenditures, $25,000. 6. Land use expenditures, $5,000. 7. Community Center expenditures, $54,000. 8. Town building expenditures, $50,000. And finally, 9. Academy building expenditures, $150,000.
Second? You have a little more to go. And further to get appropriate funds. Okay. All right, there's moved and seconded. Explanation?
As Town Manager Ketchen explained to you earlier, that when we do have a large amount of free cash available, we seek to transfer that free cash to operating expenditures and/or capital expenditures. In this case, these are operating expenditures.
All in favor of Article 7, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Tom Delasco, Chair of the Community Preservation Committee, 12 Hillside Drive. Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate or reserve from the Community Preservation Fund annual reserve revenues in the amounts recommended by the Community Preservation Committee for committee administrative expenses, community preservation projects, and other expenses in fiscal year 2023, with each item to be considered a separate appropriation or take any action in relation thereto. Under the historic preservation category, we have a request from the Mount for $125,000. Annual library debt service for for $118,500 for a total of $243,500. Community housing category, we have an application from Penrose LLC for $500,000. Administrative expenses are $16,559.35. Total expenditures, $760,059.35. The CPA reserves are the fiscal 23 annual revenues are our 10% historic sleeves, so $33,118.70 to the historic preservation sleeve, $33,118.70 to the community housing sleeve, and the same amount of money, $33,118.70 to open space and recreation, for a total of $99,356.10.
Is there a second?
Second.
Explanation.
This past winter, the Community Preservation Committee considered two applications for funding. One was from the Mount for a historic preservation project, the other from Penrose LLC for an affordable housing project. The application from the Mount asks for $125,000 towards the exterior restoration of the gatehouse on their campus. If approved, the contribution from the town would represent about 16% of the total project cost of $800,585. The remaining funds are coming from other grants, donor contributions, and the Mount's own capital reserve funds. The application from Penrose LLC asks for $500,000 toward the construction of the Brushwood Farms Affordable Housing Project. The annual library debt service amount of $118,500 goes towards the bond that was floated in 2008 to purchase the library. We have one more year to go. The bond will be paid off in 2024. The administrative expenses amount of $16,559.35 goes towards administrative expenses that the CPC would incur, such as staff time devoted to the CPC, public notice filings, hiring of consultants, etc. The CPA reserve amounts for each category, historic preservation, community housing, and open space and recreation, are the CPC's traditional allocations of the annual revenues.
Okay, all those opposed on Article 8, all those in favor of Article 8, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Article 9. Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer $100,000 from the Community Preservation Unrestricted Fund balance to the CPC Community Housing Fund for future housing projects, or take any action in relation thereto.
Is there a second?
Second.
Explanation?
This is a housekeeping article that would allocate $100,000 from the unrestricted fund and essentially bank it in the Community Housing Fund. This is similar to what the CPC has done in the past with funds towards future open space and recreation projects.
All those in favor of Article 9, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Mr. Moderator, Article 9, I move that the town vote to transfer $100,000. Oh, wait a second. I'm doing 9 to 10. Mr. Moderator, Article 10, I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $175,000 to be placed in the fire engine stabilization account.
Second.
Explanation.
Every year, the town puts money in the bank so when it comes time to replace apparatus, we have the cash and we don't have to come and ask for $1 million. So we'll have the money in the bank.
All those in favor of Article 10, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Mr. Moderator, Article 11, I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $50,000 to be placed in the ambulance stabilization account.
Is there a second?
Second.
Explanation.
Similarly to the previous article, we also reserve money to replace the ambulance when the time comes and when it's due.
All those in favor of Article 11, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $315,000 for FY22 operating budget expenditures, $250,000 to restore funding to the Other Post-Employment Benefit and Trust, our OPEB account, and $65,000 to the town manager salary adjustment due to the termination of the shared services agreement.
Is there a second?
Second.
Explanation.
These are supplemental appropriations for the FY22 budget for the fiscal year that we're currently in order to set aside funds for our retirees and also to make up the difference in the amount that the town of Lee is no longer contributing to the shared services agreement for the town manager.
All those in favor of Article 12, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, Kate McNulty Vaughn, 10 Post Road. I'm a member of the Lennox Affordable Housing Committee and the Lennox Affordable Housing Trust. Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to recommend that the Select Board disband the Affordable Housing Committee since its purpose is being fulfilled and actions now undertaken by the Affordable Housing Trust.
Is there a second?
Second.
Explanation.
Over the years, from the beginning of the affordable housing interest in town, which occurred in 2006 with the citizens petition, we've morphed from a task force to a committee appointed by the Select Board to the the committee itself recommending that the town adopt the Mass General Law, Chapter 44, which allows us to have an affordable housing trust here in town. It seems a little crazy to be having both of them. We have overlapping membership. As you see, I'm a member of both. And it seems that this is the time that we just put all of our eggs in the basket of the Affordable Housing Trust. It has the power and the oversight of funds to actually help make affordable housing part of the Lennox scenario. Everyone deserves safe and secure housing.
Okay. All those in favor of Article 13, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you. And we have openings on the trust for volunteers.
Article 14.
Hi, I'm Ronaldo Delgado. I'm the petitioner, 24 Orchard.
You're going to have to get closer to the mic.
I made a mistake. I'd like to make an amendment.
There's no motion on the floor. There's no motion.
I'd like to request of the moderator to allow John Peralta of the Berkshire Humane Society to speak.
Let's start with, let's get into the question.
Okay.
We need a motion first.
I move to pass my petition to ban the sale of puppies from puppy mills in the town of Lennox.
Need to clarify that, Ronaldo. That's not actually.
What are you asking me to move? I'm asking for to pass the item 14.
As written? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Oh, you're asking about my amendment? Yeah.
No, I'm asking for a motion. That's not actually a legal motion, what you just did. So I'm trying to get a legal one out of you.
Read your motion.
You want me to read?
Read me the motion.
I move that the town vote to adopt a regulation regarding the sale of dogs, cats, and rabbits in pet stores as attached to the May 5th, 2022 town meeting warrant. I'm sorry. Now I'd like to, is it seconded?
Not yet. So, do you, instead of the word regulation, do you want to use bylaw? Because we don't vote on.
Yeah, I messed up. It should be bylaw. I used the word ordinance before. It should be the word bylaw. It's a regulation, but it's a bylaw. I don't care. But it should be bylaw.
Is there a second on that? Is there a second?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. All right. Okay, it's been second now. Well, we can have discussion now.
All right. So my name's, do you mind if I face the audience? My name is Ronaldo Delgado. I'm the petitioner. I'm at 24 Orchard. And I'm going to keep this very brief. This is something that is relatively uncontroversial. We did it in Pittsfield, and it passed almost instantaneously, unanimously by the city council. We put it in front of North Adams, and it passed instantaneously, almost without debate, by the city council in North Adams. I don't expect it's going to receive a lot of opposition. John Peralta is here to talk about the evils of puppy mills, but there are two primary objections to this type of a warrant article. The first is there's no pet stores in Lenox. Well, the reality is they could move here. They've been in Plainville. One recently moved there. They've been in Albany. They've been in Berkshire County. And it's better to have a bylaw before somebody comes here than to actually have them come here and then pass one. Secondly, the common objection is because we basically say that you have to, you can only sell animals, puppies, rabbits, cats from shelters. Well, what about breeders? No responsible, reputable breeder would sell a dog at a pet store. They're always sold directly to the consumer. They make sure that the dog is placed well. Those are the only two objections that I ever hear about. Puppies from puppy mills they're raised in squalor. It's disease. It's infested. And often the purchaser doesn't know that they're getting a puppy from such a situation, and the dog has all types of diseases. They're raised in very small living spaces, and they've underwent a lot of psychological trauma. So with that, I'm not going to go on and on. I think most of you are educated enough to know the evils of puppy mills, and I would like to request or move that John Peralta of the Berkshire Humane Society be allowed to speak.
So John's not a Lenox resident, so I need to know if at least 10 of you would be willing to hear him speak. So just raise your hand if you'd be willing. That's good. That's enough. Go right ahead.
No problem. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. My name is John Peralta. I'm the Executive Director of the Berkshire Humane Society. I've been in the field for over 38 years, since 1984, and I can tell you that I've dealt with, through the years, many pet stores that have sold puppies, some cats, definitely rabbits, and I can tell you that the conditions, the concerns, the complaints are enormous. And it's now 2022. We don't have any here, and I do agree, and the Berkshire Humane Society does agree with Attorney Delgado that, you know what, it's better to have something in place before something comes. And I could answer any questions if anybody wants to, but this is something we wholeheartedly support. And I think it's taking the actions before something happens.
I just have that. I don't know if we need the amendment, but I made a typographical error and used the word city council when I meant to say town of Lenox.
We'll accept the amendment just because it's wording changes.
Veronica Fenton, 38 Taconic Avenue. I just have some technical concerns. I don't think anybody here is like, oh, yay, puppy mills. But I think the concern is that it limits it to being able to sell animals that are only from the shelter. As someone who's actually supported the shelter, I'm not opposed to that, but I'm also aware of some local businesses that have actually done a nice job in responsibly and appropriately breeding beautiful animals that are for families. And so my concern is that there's nothing in here that defines a puppy mill. I understand that we may have a colloquial or shared understanding of that, but maybe there would be some details in that. And then my other concern is that it doesn't say pet stores, it says no person shall sell. So I'm aware of some wonderful family-based breeders who, or people who have a puppy they're responsibly breeding, and families have taken an opportunity for that. So I'm just concerned that this just needs to be further detailed and amended. And I know that we do have a citizens petition opportunity in our democracy, and it's important, but I'm wondering if we could agree to table this to detail it within our bylaws to get the details and the definitions that we need to actually help it to fit the purpose for which it is intended. I'm concerned that I wouldn't vote for this because I feel there's some vagueness, and a puppy mill should in fact be defined because I believe there's codes and standards within the state. I also was informed by a friend today that my understanding is Massachusetts is also working on some legislation around that. That's just coming from someone sharing that with me, but I hope, I'm supportive of it, but I'm concerned that it's not fully where it should be.
Tom Delasco, 12 Hillside Drive, also Vice Chair of the Planning Board. I'd like to ask the question, is this going to be a town bylaw or a zoning bylaw? Because if it's going to be a zoning bylaw, there's a lot of language in here that needs a lot of work before the town adopts it. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, Joel Bard, Town Council, it would be a general bylaw, not a zoning bylaw.
Hello, Dennis Geyer, 38 Braceland Court. I'm really glad that Mrs. Fenton got up before me because I was wrestling in my seat of how I would stand up and talk about this and not be for puppy mills. No one's for puppy mills. I want to be clear, I'm not for puppy mills. But I do also have, as the two other speakers before me have said, I have technical questions about this. We started off not knowing if it was a bylaw or regulation. There's language in there about a city council. I understand there was an amendment made for that. So it leads me to wonder, has this been vetted through the town? The enforcement of this is through the police department and the animal control officer. Has there been any presentation to the town about this? So my questions are that, yes, there's legislation before the state, there's a bill before the state legislature on this topic, and the typical thing to do is to get a lot of cities and towns to adopt something like this and then go to the legislators and say, well, your town has adopted this, 4 of your towns have adopted this, you need to vote for, this is how it works. I just want to make sure that the town that I live in, that we're going to make sure we do this right if we are going to vote for this. Again, not for puppy mills. I'm not for puppy mills, but I think if we're going to do this, we need to do this right. We need to make sure we have input from the people that are going to be enforcing this, hopefully by law or regulation, whatever it is. Thank you.
David Newbert, 140 Plunkett Street. I was actually going to bring up a technical detail also, which I think is kind of impossible to enforce, but having been someone who's bred rabbits on our farm and given them to people, I would be a criminal for that on the way this is written. But I would like to invite the petitioner to bring this up with the select board and have us write a proper law that will be enforceable, that you will get everything you want, and that we will definitely be able to provide you with the spirit of what you're looking to get, but do it in a way that's more legal, I guess. That's all.
Hi, Jean Belton. I'm at 7 Fairview in Lenox. I actually took a look at the regulation and I tried to kind of rewrite it so it would do what it says it was going to do and focus on specifically addressing and prohibiting the sale of pets from puppy mills, defined as, basically places that engage in abusive practices for commercial gain at the expense of the well-being of the animals. I think that if I think it's very important that, and I'm glad that this is an issue before the town. I think it's very important that puppy mills that we not be encouraging them, and that we be ensuring that pets that are sold here are raised humanely. So I'm totally opposed to abusive puppy mills. At the same time, I did, take a stab at drafting this. I think it needs a lot of rewriting. There are a lot of inconsistencies, including, for example, pet store is used throughout, and yet the definition is for pet shop. That refers you to the Massachusetts general law, and then the definition of pet shop is very, very broad and would seem to catch a lot of people. So it seems like this has to be much more focused, much more tailored, so that if there is going to be a regulation, that it specifically gets at the problem of puppy mills and does not impinge upon the ability of people to buy pets of the breed of their choice, or interfere with businesses and their ability to sell pets if they're selling pets that have been treated humanely. And I have this if anyone wants to take a look at it.
I have a copy of it already.
Thanks, John. Neil Maximilian, 117 Cliffwood. As a member of the Select Board, it feels to me like we haven't really thought carefully about this. It seems like there's some confusion as to what the language should be. I've heard at least 3 people talk about the confusion, whether this is a bylaw or a regulation. To me, this feels like something that we should table, that the applicant should come sit with us and craft a proper bylaw, as has been suggested by a member of the audience already. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
I second that motion. If that's a motion to table, I second it.
That was a motion to table.
The motion to table? You actually have to make the motion. Say, I move to table.
Mr. Moderator, following my comments, I make a motion to table this until further discussion.
All right.
Is that debatable?
It is.
I just want to say, just so you know, I tried to meet with the select board to get approval, and I was told I couldn't. So I tried to do that, and it couldn't. The other thing is, the actual, if you look at the actual restrictive language, it's about pet shops, and it's about selling on the street and the like. I could read the whole thing. I just asked. He said I could.
It's debatable.
It's debatable. So what happened is I asked before if I would do it, but the other thing is.
Oh, I'm sorry. It is not debatable.
It's not debatable.
I was.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
I know. It does take a 2/3 vote, but it is not debatable. I apologize. That was my fault. So you're going to be voting on the motion to table this.
I have a motion for an electronic vote.
So all in favor of tabling this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? It carries.
Okay.
It's all yours. Article 15. That's right there. It's awesome. We don't actually have to do this.
Mr. Moderator, to see if the town will bring their votes for one or more members of each of the following town officers. 1 moderator for 1 year, 1 selectman for 3 years, 1 Board of Health member for 3 years, 1 assessor for 3 years, 2 school committee members for 3 years, 1 planning board member for 5 years, 1 planning board member for 3 years, 1 housing authority member for 5 years. Hereof, fail not and make due return of this warrant with your, no, I'm going too far. I've gone too far.
Okay. All right, it's not really a votable. This is just for us to let you guys know that this is happening. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
It's happening on Monday between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. in the town hall.
Please vote.
Please vote. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, John.
Good job, team.